YouTube. Wusabat, Wusabat. Let's see. Come on, guys. Looks like my intro is not working. Yeah. So I gotta change my little intro. I see. Let's see. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if I'm prepared to. I gotta update my intro because it looks like they're not allowing me to use the. I guess from YouTube, it's blocking my sound quality, but that's okay. We shall work through it. We shall overcome. I don't need to use the YouTube. I just did it. It was easy, simple. But I got other intro music. Check this out. Let's see. That's meditation music.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. لما أنا كنت في سودان أنا سألت أمي عن أبي وهي قالت يا ولدي يا ولدي عيسى حبيبي. وأنا قلت أصدقائي
All right, roll back, Musa. Roll back, Musa. We're back. We are back. Actual facts. We are back. Kabul. Musa. Kabul means welcome. Welcome. All righty then. Welcome. We have a lot to cover. Today, as usual. Hopefully we can get through everything. I highly recommend, as I tell you guys all the time, definitely watch these discussions, lectures more than once for your own edification. We're going to be covering a lot of concepts that might be new to you guys. So I'm always saying to study these discussions, to study these lectures. It's extremely important for your own edification. So, like I said, we have a lot to talk about on this particular topic. In fact, I need to find something while we're here. Let's see. Yeah, but yeah, we have so much that we need to get across today on this particular topic. And I was looking for a picture, an image, but it's not here. I don't see it what I want. I don't see it what I want. I'm getting close to what I would like to see. Thought I just had it actually. There we go. Yeah, okay. Greetings. Roll back. Greetings. To our YouTube family out there, to our Sabian family out there. For those who do not know me, my name is Peti Sina Tebtu Re'e, and I've been over a 30-year student teacher of the profound doctrine of the master teacher, known to us as Panabab Yananan, also known as Dr. Malaka Z.K. York, who has been teaching us our ancient culture. We identify as Wusabat, also known as Wusabat, which stands for those who make decisions based on sound, right, reasonability, based on the principles of Ma'at, based on the wisdom of the Hutri. In essence, our culture as melanated people worldwide, woolly-haired melanated people, our culture was about being in harmony with natural nature. Today they call it animism, right? Being in harmony with natural nature. That was our original culture that we used to live by when we lived in harmony, when we ruled ourselves. Now we are not ruling ourselves, and we say that the reason why is because we've gotten away from our original way of doing things over the last 6,000 years, especially within the last 500 years under racism, white supremacy. We have been slaves to foreigners. And we have been suffering ever since. And we argue the only reason for the suffering is because we're living foreign cultures. You know, the creator of a culture is the ruler of that culture, and the ruler of the culture is the beneficiary of that culture. And that's why we don't benefit, because we're serving someone else's culture, lifestyle. All over the globe, you see it. Look at the African countries, black people running nations, living other European cultures. Even their body of law is ran by European systems. So how are you going to rule living under the mindset of someone else's economic systems? And this is why we're suffering. And this is what we teach in Wusabat, to re-educate our people how we can get to a position of rulership, of power. And that's by restoring your right knowledge, by restoring your cultural ways and how you live, because culture equals economics, family. Culture equals economics, family. Culture equals rulership, family. And so if you want to rule again, if you want to stop suffering and being at the hands of foreigners, killing your children at any will, they shoot us down. We all know this. They invade our countries with impunity. We know this. They imprison us with impunity. We know this. And this is going to continue to happen until we get away from foreigners and do our own thing. There are many of us. We are a beautiful, powerful people all over the globe. If we just acknowledge it and love one another and say, let's just work together, us melanated people around the globe. And then we wouldn't have these issues. And this is what our discussions are about. We are dedicated to educating our people on this culture, Wusabat, how we can do it. So listen up, take your time, study, analyze what we're saying, support what we're saying, get involved. And with all that being said, before we get started, we always open our discussions with, let's see, with our culture, our prayer systems, right? Our culture, Wusabat, is about spiritual science, spiritual development, spiritual growth. And we do, our prayer systems, right? For your own spiritual development. And we do it in our Lahaj language, means Sabat, right? For those who know, you know. For those who do not know, I read the prayers in our language Sabat, and then I'll translate it to English. You can follow along. I highly recommend learning these prayers that we go over every week. Okay, and let's begin. Baday kala namasat wufako amer kasemun shala put pasawat wupatara panen safa kawun pasawat wupatara z kawuna nazula laha enkum manas sabat Wusabat Amah Hadayan Shafe'un Manas Alafu Wunataru Ajulayana Fasukum Afukshane Kawun Kuma Pa Sawat Wu Patara. This book is the truth and the way. It was sent down for you all from Sabat Wusabat star constellation as a guidance and a healing. But from your ancestors and overseers, return to your own, accept what is yours, the truth and the way. Anun tawa ankum lehe penan shafe'um wu alaj. Anun tawa ankum lehe nasuinun. Anun tawa ankum lehe ashuk. Ankum at the salafunun. Anun at the kharat ukum. Anum talub nasar kuma. Anum talub nasar kuma. And so nun sayim nataru. And so nun salafunun. Anun at the munwapu. We thank you all for this healing and cure. We thank you all for not forgetting us. We thank you all for Ashuk. You are our ancestors and we are your children. We seek your help. We seek your help. Help us, divine overseers. Help us, our ancestors. We almost bowed. Anun. Atun. Atun. Amen. Jennifer, Jadah Wawad. We say Jadah Wawad means very good. Jadah Wawad. Wawad. Very good. Jadah Wawad. Now, let's see where we at. Okay, before we get started, every week we go over the core principles of Wusabat. Our culture, for those who are familiar with this, you know that we go over this, is extremely important. For all of our discussions are centered around our core principles. It is imperative that all students of Wusabat understand these core principles and to apply it into your actions and deeds each and every day, to be the best Sabian you can possibly be, to restore yourself, to return yourselves to your glory, your inner being, your innermost abilities and powers. And this is what the principles will teach you to do once you truly, truly, truly embrace them. right? So principle number 1 is Ashat, and that stands for divine love. There's nothing without Ashat. There's nothing without Ashat. Now, we did a discussion on that, so definitely check that lecture out. Highly, highly recommend it. Principle number 2 is resurrection. Resurrection is about becoming goddesses and gods once again by learning to open your third eye, as your ancestors once did. This is the restoration of your spiritual abilities. So check that lecture out. If you haven't seen it in a while, rewatch it, family. Principle number 3 is the wisdom of Dahutri and Ma'at. Dahutri stands for our divine mind, and Ma'at stands for justice. Definitely check those discussions out on those topics. Principle number 4 is relationships. As melanated people, as African or Native American people, we always lived up for and by each other as a community, as a tribe, as a nation of people. We didn't live capitalism, socialism, communism, Marxism, fascism, all these isms. Weren't Republicans or Democrats. We weren't any of that. We were Sabaeans who lived in harmony with natural nature. Our culture was Ma'at. Let's get back to that. Principle number 5 is morphic resonance / matrix. Morphic resonance stands for sounds, tones, colors, frequencies, vibrations. Existence is based on that. And matrices are the manifestations of those sounds, tones, colors, and vibrations. Now, principle number 6 is Leviathan. This is who we've been at war with for the last 6,000 years. Leviathan stands for moon culture, aka religion, aka Western culture. These are the forces of death that we're fighting, right? Check out our lecture on that subject. Very powerful, very powerful. Principle number 7 is soul and spirit. Your soul is your emotional force. Your spirit is your life force. Check that discussion out. Principle number 8 is health. The first key to health is a positive mind. As melanated people, we need a lot of sunlight. Water, the body is 70% water. Fasting, we recommend at least once or twice a week. The herbal diet, as Dr. Sabius taught us. Exercise, family, exercise, key to health. Rhythmic breathing. These are the spiritual keys now. Rhythmic breathing, meditation, concentration, prayer, and chanting. As we always say, health is not just what you do physically. It's also the things you have to do spiritually for proper health, a complete balanced being. So check that lecture out we did on that topic. Okay. And principle number 9 is Pa'ut, which is the creative force. It translates to the word all, right? You can't add to the all because where would you get it from? You can't take from the all because where would you put it? Existence is. And we say Pa'ut just means existence, all. And existence is based on what they call the SMAT. The SMAT just stands for cycles of nature. Nature is based on perpetual cycles. And the creation energy of existence is called Achach. It translates to ether. That's what the Greeks called it when they learned that from us. We call it Achach or Ach. Now, as Sabaeans, we have 3 primary goals. Goal number 1 is to raise the self. Goal number 2 is to fight Leviathan. And goal number 3 is to work to build Sabbatia. Now, in goal number 1 in raising the self, you must become born again, as Christians teach, by learning the culture of Wusabat and live it, right? So we give up the old for the new. We give up the old for the new. All the bad we learned in Western culture, we give that up for the culture of Wusabat. And the first step to doing that is making what we call a name correction. Correct your name. Take on a righteous name that identifies you with your ancestors, not that identifies you with these Mukasu, the ghost forces. Correct the name, family. You must correct how you look and dress, right? Culture, dress. That's key. Learn to speak Sabaic. That's the first step towards resurrection. Speaking the language tones, vibrations. Language is key. You must study our doctrine every day, which builds your sound right reasoning skills. This is how you're going to learn to make better decisions, by constantly studying the doctrine. Keep in mind the disagreeable ones. They keep their culture in your face every day to keep you thinking about them. The only way to fight that is through studying the doctrine every day to keep righteousness in your mind, how to make right decisions. You must practice and master our daily rituals to turn yourself inside out, family. right? The meditation, the concentration exercises, the prayers, the chants, all of these things are key for your own spiritual development. And you must always be positive. You're not going to get anything worthwhile done in an effective way without a positive mind, right? Now, the second goal of a Sabaean is to fight Leviathan. That's key. Our biggest fight now with the forces of a Leviathan is freeing the master teacher from their clutches, right? They kidnapped him. We have to free him. The other issue with fighting Leviathan is Leviathan deals with this what we call their six strongest weapons they have against us. Or Leviathan, it feeds off of our ignorance, our fears, our ego, our anger, our lust/desires, and lies/deceptions. Leviathan loves gossip and slander. It destroys us. Let's give those things up. And the last goal of a Sabaean is to work to build Sabbatia, right? So we have to set up our own communities once again to live up for and by each other. We have to set up our own communities. And in doing so, we must work to support each other in business, help each other reach positive goals. We help to build our culture. We must set up a landing zone for Panatharu in Africa, which means we need land in Africa that would be supported by an African government. Now, Ashuk is the key to accomplish all our goals. Now, what does it mean to be a Sabaean? A Sabaean is someone who is thoughtful and cares, someone who is helpful and honest, someone who is responsible and hardworking, someone who demands justice and honorable, someone who is righteous and humble, someone who is excited and cheerful, someone who is loving and peaceful, someone who is kind and considerate, and someone who is neat, clean, and orderly. Our purpose as Sabaean is the liberation from adverse forces. So, number one, you must take action each and every day to free yourself of 6 ether spirits inside and out, which includes Black people who are possessed by these spirit forces. To acknowledge and fight 6 ether from promoting capitalism, the gay agenda, miscegenation, the so-called equality of the races, racism, white supremacy. And 3, learn, live by, and promote the laws/rules of natural nature. And each one teach one, family. Word of advice. Do not judge this doctrine by watching the behavior of Padabab Yanana nor his students. Judge this doctrine by the effectiveness of the information, aka affirmation, that you personally put to practical use. This doctrine is based on self-authentication. Know that we are not preachers, but teachers who are dedicated to answering questions until there is a meeting of the minds between teacher and student, who then can work in unity, which is the only solution to our problems. Quote, what you do for yourself in kind depends on what you think of yourself in kind. And what you think of yourself in kind depends on what you know of yourself in kind. And what you know of yourself in kind depends on what you was taught and by whom of yourself in kind. Quote, until the lion has their historians, the hunter will always be the hero. Last, the negative mind talks of what it can't and will not do for self and kind, always complaining about who they don't like or trust, whereas the positive mind always maintains the peace by not complaining about that in which they do not like, but focus on finding solutions to their problems, never allowing obstacles to get in the way of growth, family. Alrighty then. Now, with all that being said, let's get started with today's discussion. And the question is, are Black people Hebrews, right? It's been in the news a lot dealing with this Kyrie Irving situation. For those who are familiar with that, Kyrie Irving being a top basketball player out there who was attacked by the media and by the so-called Jewish community because he posted a link to a particular video called From Negroes to Hebrews, or From Hebrews to Negroes, or something like that. I believe that's the name of it. Some brother did a video and then wrote a book on it, and it's being sold on Amazon.com, and Kyrie posted it. And so this topic of Hebrews has been coming up. And it's a very important topic because a lot of our people subscribe to the Hebrew culture. A lot of Black people all over the globe subscribe to the Hebrew culture. And I think it's very important for for our people to have some knowledge about this Hebrew culture that so many of our people subscribe to. And so that's what today's discussion is. Again, if anybody have any questions or concerns, I repeat, questions stimulate conversation. Questions stimulate conversation. Questions stimulate conversation. It's not just about me talking, but it's also about us having a discussion as well, right? This is important, guys. This is the basis of relationships, talking to one another, us getting to the point where we get to where there's a meeting. We talk about this. We have to have a meeting of the minds where we are in agreement, where we begin to start doing things together. What's the point if we're not going to work together? What's the point of all these discussions if we're not going to talk to one another, get to know one another? If we don't communicate, how will we get to know one another? What's the point of all this knowledge if we're not going to utilize it? By the first thing, the ultimate goal is relationships in our culture. And that's why we just do these discussions, so that one, we'll all start making the same type of decisions. So let's talk, family. Ask questions. Think. Put your thinking caps on. Listen to what we're talking about. Stimulate conversations. Questions stimulate conversations. Statements also stimulates conversation. So I want to reiterate that so that we're not dormant. Now, let's get started. So question, who are the Hebrews, right? Question, who are the Hebrews? Okay. Let's see. The prophet Abraham is the first person in the Bible called Hebrew. I refer to Genesis chapter 14, verse 13 talks about this. It says the word Hebrew means to cross over, which is said how Abraham was given his name. Okay, so this is where this word is coming out of the Bible, family. So if we go into the Bible and let's see, we go into the Bible, where we at? This is Numbers, and we go to Genesis, and we go to Genesis chapter 14, and let's see, verse 13. Let's see, 12. It says, and they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed. And there came one that had escaped, and told Abram the Hebrew, for he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, the Amorite, brother of Ishkol, and brother of Amar, or Aner. And these were confederate with Abraham. So Abraham was called a Hebrew. So this is the first time this word is picked up in the Bible, guys. In Genesis chapter 14 is where people see this particular word Hebrew. Now the question also comes up, where is Abraham from? If you go to Genesis chapter 11, it talks about where Abraham actually is from. If I can see it here, it says right here, Genesis chapter 11, verse 27, it says 26, and Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. So Terah is the father of Abraham. Okay. Terah is the father of Abraham. Terah, Torah. You see that? There's a connection there, family. That's Abraham's father. And then it says, now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran begat Lot. And Haran died before his father. Terah in the land of his nativity. This is where he was from. Terah in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldees. Right? That's modern day Iraq, family, for those who do not know. So this is where this information is coming from. It's coming out of the Bible, right? So Genesis chapter 11, verse 28 speaks about Abraham's father Terah coming from the land of Ur of the Chaldees, which would be modern day Iraq. So we just read that. Hebrew today is known as a culture that originates from the Old Testament of the Bible. Okay? Hebrews believe that they are the chosen of God and that God created the heavens and the earth. Right? Hebrews are the creation of God who are obligated to live by the laws and commandments of God. Okay? So these are the chosen people of God according to the Bible. Question. Why do people believe that they are the Hebrews spoken of in the Bible? Answer. There are many reasons why black people believe that they are the biblical Hebrew people. The first clue that the people of the Bible are black would be the sons of Noah, in particular, the second son, Ham, which means black. So, guys, everybody hear about Noah and Noah's Ark. Noah had 3 sons. First son name is Shem. Second son name is Ham. And the third son name is Japheth. Ham means black. Ham means black. This is one of the sons of Noah. And the 3 sons that Noah had were triplets. The 3 sons of Noah were triplets. Okay? And Ham, being the second of those triplets, means black. So that should tell you right there. Now, and then Ham had sons. Ham had 4 sons, right? Ham's first son was named Cush. Cush means black, the Cushites. So Ham's son is named Cush, which means black. Then he had a son named Mitzrayim, which means Egyptians who are black. So Mitzrayim is the name for Egypt, and that's one of the sons of Ham. So Ham's supposed to be the father of the Egyptians, called the Mitzrayimites. In fact, that's what they call Egypt today. If you go to Egypt today, because Egypt is a Greek name, and that's what Europeans call it. But that's not what the people who live there call it. They call it Mizr, from this word, Mitzrayim. Okay? And so Ham, being the son of Noah, had 4 sons, Cush, Mitzrayim, and his son Phut. And all these sons lived in Africa or moved to Africa. Cush being the Cushites, that's African. Mitzrayim being the Egyptians, that's African. And Phut being the Libyans, that's African. So Ham means black. All his children are African, which means black. So guys, obviously the Bible is leading people to think that these Bible characters are black people. Okay? So this is where this information is coming from. So if we go back to the Bible, just so you guys can see this, it picks up with Noah and his sons in Genesis, I believe it's Genesis chapter 9, that goes into that. If we can see. And the sons of Noah that went forth for the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Okay, and Ham is the father of Canaan. So there you see, and that was what I just read. That was Genesis chapter 9, verse let's see, 3 sons of Ham. Yeah, that's Genesis. Where did I just read that from? That's 18. Okay, Genesis chapter 9, verse 18 tells you the sons of Noah. Okay, so you can clearly see that the sons of Noah. Then if you go to the next is the sons of Ham. So the sons of Ham, Cush, which is black, I just told you, and Mitzrayim, which means the Egyptians, which is black, and Phut. And Phut represents the Libyans, and those are all African black people. So this gives you the idea of where this information is coming from, that the children of Noah are black people, right? Being that the Bible is literally telling you that. This is what made people, think this. Okay. Now Noah's first son, Shem, who is the ancestor of Abraham, would also have to be black since his twin brother Ham is black. So remember, Noah had 3 sons and they were triplets. Okay, and so if one son is black and they're all triplets, obviously the other sons are black. So that should be a no-brainer. And then it goes on to say this. The Bible also has many other clues of black people, such as Jesus' brothers in the book of Acts, chapter 13, verse 1, called the brothers of Jesus Niger, which means black. Guys, so if we go back to the Bible and we go to the book of Acts, right here, the book of Acts, chapter, where is it at? Chapter 13. And go to the book of Acts, chapter 13, verse 1. This is the King James Version of the Bible, family, just so for those who need to know. It says, now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas, who's one of the brothers of Jesus, guys, and Simon, that's another brother of Jesus, that was called Niger. Niger, from Nigeria, and the country Niger. You have the country Niger in Africa, just like you have the country Nigeria in Africa. Both mean black. Both of the names mean black. And so where is it at? Have a map right here. See the country Niger? Niger, this word means black. Okay? No different than Nigeria. Where's Nigeria at? But Nigeria is right next to it. You have Niger and Nigeria. Both of these words mean black. This is where the word nigger comes from. Nigger, Negro, same word. Black. Okay? Right here, on the continent. And this is a map of Africa, guys, so y'all can see that. And you got Niger right here. And so the Bible is telling you that says, again, the book of Acts. Now there were in the church that was in Antioch certain prophets and teachers. They're prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simon, that was called Niger. They were called black. And these are the brothers of Jesus, which is interesting, right? So his brothers are being called, they're being called black. For what it's worth. For that, then we go back. Let's see. And this guys just gives you an idea where this black thing coming from. Where people, Hebrews are saying that, they're the children of the Bible. Yes, eating off Sudan also means black. That's right. The country Sudan means black. For those who do not know. Right? So where is it at? Again, Sudan, Sada means black. Even Ethiopia, family, is derivative to black. A lot of people don't know that. That's also means black. And all. So, I know people say, why you call yourself black? Why you because that's what we call ourselves, black. Because we are black. But now when we're talking about the Bible, I'm showing you guys where this information about the whole Hebrew thing is coming from. So it's very important to see why Hebrew or black people are identifying themselves with Hebrews, because this is kind of Bible is leading you to this kind of conclusion. Okay? Revelations chapter 1 speaks of the likeness of Jesus having the image of a black person. Okay? So if you go to Revelations chapter, let's go to Revelations chapter 1. Talks about it. Let's see, Revelations chapter 1. And we go down here, famous quote. Where are we at? Let's see. This is the the disciple John, one of the disciples of Jesus, wrote the book of Revelations, the disciple John. And he's saying right here, he says, and I turn, okay, here, let me start at verse 10. The disciple John says this: I was in the spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet. He was in the spirit. He was out of his body, guys. He was out of his body, and he was in the spiritual realm, and he heard a voice. He said, I repeat it. He said, I was in the spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as a trumpet. So he heard someone speaking to him, saying, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, and what thou seest write in a book. So this is where the book of Revelations came from, because he saw it, and he was being introduced to this information by this individual he met in the spiritual realm. He says, what you see, write in a book, and send it unto the 7 churches which are in Asia, unto Ephesus, and unto Smyrna, and unto Pergamos, and unto Thyatira, and unto Sardis, and unto Philadelphia, and unto Laodicea. And I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks, right? And in the midst of the 7 candlestick, one like unto the Son of Man. See, people think this is Jesus, and it's not. He says he saw somebody like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to his foot, and girdle about the paps with a golden girdle. He was just talking about how he was dressed, family. Okay? How he was dressed. A lot of people think this is Jesus. It's not. And it's one who looks like Jesus, he says. He's like unto the Son of Man. Then he goes on to say, and his head and his hair were white like wool. So he had white woolly hair. Everybody knows everybody who has woolly hair now. As white as snow. And his eyes were as flame of fire. And his feet like unto fine brass, as if they were burnt in a furnace. And his voice as a sound of many waters. So his feet is brass. So brass is like a tan color and burnt, but you burn brass, so it's black. So his feet was black and his hair was woolly. So he's looking at a black person, like unto Jesus, right? And this being that he's speaking to says he's Alpha and Omega. This being is actually Melchizedek, or the angel Michael that he saw. John saw the angel Michael in the book of Revelation. So that is that. But see, again, blackness, right? So because they said this guy looked like Jesus. So he's describing, saying that Jesus obviously looks like the guy. He looks black with a black person with woolly hair. So the Bible is leading to that. And Jesus is from the bloodline of the tribe of Judah. And the tribe of Judah goes back to Jacob, and Jacob being the second son of Abraham. So this is how this is the connection to blackness, where this Hebrew concept of blackness come from out of the Bible. If you go by the Bible, right, and you look at these quotes and go from that point of view, this is where it's leading you to that conclusion. So when people are trying to figure out why the black people call themselves Hebrews, now you're seeing why. Okay. So as it is clear to see, there are a lot of Bible clues that say the Hebrew people are black, such as the clue of Moses being raised as an Egyptian, who are a black African people. So that's another clue. Moses being raised as one of the Egyptians. So he's being raised in an African country as he's one of them. So he had to look like them. So that's another clue in the Bible. Then you have the Moses' sister Miriam being turned white in the book of Numbers chapter 12 because she made the God of the Bible angry. Moses' sister was turned white. And being she was turned white is to be a curse put on you. The curse of leprosy was put on Moses' sister, guys. Let's see, where are we at? If I can find that one, because that's another interesting quote. Let's see. So Numbers chapter 12 here. So this is the book of Numbers in the Old Testament. We're in chapter 12. And let's see. And it says here, verse 9, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle. And behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. She turned white, guys. And Aaron looked upon Miriam. This is the sister of Moses. Miriam is the sister of Moses. And behold, she was leprous. And Aaron, that's Moses' brother, Aaron. And Aaron said unto Moses, alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Okay, so Miriam basically made the God of the Bible upset, and he cursed her being white. So if he cursed her being white, what's the opposite of white? If being white was a curse, then obviously the opposite of that must be black, especially when you're looking at all these other clues of blackness. So you see how the Bible leads people to thinking that the characters in the Bible are black people. I hope that makes sense. It should be very clear that this is kind of where the Bible is, and this is where people are getting this information from, why people call themselves Hebrews. Okay. And this is understandable because this is something we taught for years, being students of the master teacher. And we're going to get into that. So let's see where we at. So question, what other clues other than the Bible tell us that the Hebrew people of the Bible are black? Answer, there are a number of black African tribes that claim they are biblical descendants of Abraham. There is the famous Falasha tribe of Ethiopia, the Limba tribe of South Africa, the Igbo tribe of Nigeria. All of these African tribes claim to be Hebrew descendants now living on the African continent. Okay, so guys, all of these tribes right here, I'll give you some images. This is an image of the Limba tribe in South Africa, has Jewish roots, genetic tests reveal. This is an image of them, guys, the Limbas of South Africa. They got the little yarmulke headdress, and they claim to be, Hebrews. Okay, they claim to be Hebrews. So they right in South Africa. So you have them. Who else you got? You got the Falasha. The Falasha, Ethiopia. They also claim to be Hebrews. So you have black people in the southern part of Africa saying they're Hebrews. You got black people on the northern eastern part of Africa claiming to be Hebrews. Then you have the Igbos. This is Wikipedia. The Igbo Jews. The Igbos. Look at them. They're Igbos are from Nigeria, West Africa. The Igbos from West Africa claim to also be of Jewish descent, Hebrew descent. For those who do not know. So you have a lot of black people claim to be of this bloodline, okay, on a continent. Other clues of black Hebrews would be the black people who lived in what is called the Middle East in ancient times. We know the so-called Hebrew people are really Chaldean descendants who live Chaldean culture, which is being called Bible culture. I refer people to look into the research work of Dr. Clyde Winters, who has written papers showing that black people lived in this part of the world at that timeline. In addition to all the evidence we spoke of, there is also evidence of artifacts that show black people living in this part of the world at that time. So guys, when you do the research, it does say that black people were living in this region of the world, not just Africa. So when you look at the map here, you have black people in this so-called Middle East. So Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, even all the way to Iran. You have a history of black people living all throughout these areas in ancient times. Saudi Arabia, all of it. That's why when you look at Saudi Arabia, you look at the Yemenite people. This is an image of a Yemenite, black people, indigenous to that area. Yemen, Saudi Arabia. You know, so again, you have this connection of black people in these areas. You also have another Hebrew connection would be let's see, would be back then is, let's see, is here you have these. These are the Ansars of the Sudan. Look at them. They're also Islamic Hebrews. They're Islamic Hebrews. These are called the Ansars of the Sudan. These are the image of them. Guys, Wusabat family. So there is a connection to this culture. But when we say Hebrew, guys, remember this. Where was Abraham from? He was from Ur al-Chaldean. It's really Chaldean culture. That's the key. People, you know, that's the key. These were black people who lived in these areas. Keep in mind, when we go back to the map here, ancient Chaldea, this is where modern day Iraq is over here. This was those lands in that time. Iraq was ancient Sumeria. The word Sumerian itself means black. For those who don't know, you look it up. Sumerians. Sumerians. No, I don't want to go here. Let's see. Go Wakip Sumer. Region Mesopotamia, Sumer. Ancient proto Sumerian farmers. Sumerian goddess. Sumerian, Akkadian name, Sumerian, ancient Sumerian, and Sumerian refer to noble country. Sumerian people. Okay, so it says the origin of the Sumerians is not known, but the people of Sumer refer to themselves as black-headed ones. Y'all hear that? The Sumerians means they call themselves the black-headed ones. That's what Sumerian means. A lot of people don't know that. These were black people. The ancient Sumerians. Okay? And that's modern day Iraq area is where they lived. The people who lived in Iraq, the people who live in Iraq today invaded that land. Those are the Aryans. Those are the Caucasian descendants of the Caucasians. They invaded and took over and conquered in Hindu people. Caucasian people conquered and kicked us out and moved us into Africa. They kicked all the black people who was living in these areas out. And we migrated into Africa, literally. These Sumerian or Chaldean people who became known as Hebrews. This is where the confusion is. So let's go back. Question. What does the teachings of Wusabat have to say on this topic? As students of the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, we have identified ourselves since 1970 as Nubian Islamic Hebrews. That's what we used to call ourselves, guys. For those who don't know, we used to call ourselves the Nubian Islamic Hebrews. Okay? We called ourselves Nubian because we knew that we are the descendants of the ancient Nubian Kushite peoples. The Kushite people were people who were called that, who lived in what they call modern day Sudan or Nubia in ancient times. During the ancient times of ancient Egypt, the country to the south of ancient Egypt was called Nubia or Kush, the land of Kush. The Kushites. That's what these our ancestors in Egypt call our ancestors who lived in what we call Sudan today. They call them the Kushites. And remember, I said Kush is one of the sons of Ham. So we call ourselves Nubian because we're connected to the Kushites. We called ourselves Islamic because as children of the Pataites, we are a peaceful people by nature. Islam means peace, the ones who live by peace. That's why we use that name. Had nothing to do with the religion of Islam. It was about the culture of peace. So we said we were Nubian Islamic, a Kushite, peaceful people. That's where we get the name from. We called ourselves Hebrews because we knew that we were descendants of the Bible people called Hebrews, also known as the ancient Chaldean peoples or the ancient Sumerians. This is where this Hebrew thing is coming from. Guys, there's no ancient people called Hebrews. That doesn't exist. This name comes out of the Bible. It's not a historical name. A lot of people don't know that. Nobody was in ancient times calling themselves Hebrews. Look it up. See if you can find it. You won't find that name, that word. That's just a word coming out of the Bible. The master teacher taught us in the 1960s that we are the descendants of the ancient Nubian or Nubans, also known as Pataites, whose original culture is called Nuwapu, right? So that was originally what the master teacher taught us in the 60s, that our original culture was Nuwapu, and we were related to the Pataites or the little ones, the Twa people, the Sans tribe. He taught us that in the 60s. Refer to the very first books the master teacher put out, called the Bible Interpretations and Explanations, explains this. And then in the 1970s, the master teacher taught us that we are Islamic Hebrews and that we are related to the Sudanese tribe called Ansars, who taught the Islamic Hebrew culture. So when I just showed you the Ansars, these are the Ansars. Okay, this is what they look like. These are Ansars. This is the master teacher's his grandfather. This is the master teacher's grandfather right here. He's from the Sudan. I think I have a picture. We have a picture of his family. I might have one right here. That's the same guy. This is the master teacher's grandfather. This is the master teacher's father. And this is the master teacher right here. These are Sudanese people. And they live this Islamic Hebrew culture. I mean, they live it to this very day. The Ansars are in the Sudan right now. And they still live that culture. The Hebrew culture is really the Chaldean culture that was plagiarized by the Greeks, Romans, and Pale Arabs into the Bible and the Quran. So the master teacher used the Bible and the Quran to teach us about our forgotten past, even though this was a culture that had nothing to do with our original culture, Nuwapu. The Hebrew culture, or this Chaldean culture, or the Sumerian culture, wasn't our original. It was not our original culture. We was introduced to that culture. Our original culture was Nuwapu or Wu-Sabat. But we became known as these Chaldeans, or we became known as these Sumerian peoples. And this is where this so-called Hebrew culture comes from. Remember, the Bible says what? Where was Abraham from? He was from Ur of Chaldea. This was a Chaldean culture. In the Bible, they just called him Hebrew in the Bible, but these are Chaldean peoples. I don't know why people get that confused. They, read the Bible. It's very clear on what Abraham was. Abraham didn't live the culture of Hebrew. He lived Chaldean culture, Mesopotamian culture, or of Chaldea. That meant they were fire worshipers. That's what that meant. They were worshiping the gods and goddesses of light and fire. The Anunnaki. That's the culture that Abraham was. This was Sumerian culture he was under. The Anunnaki culture. And so, the master teacher taught us that culture initially. So question, if the Hebrew culture is not our original culture, then why did Dr. York spend 20 years teaching this culture? Answer, the Hebrew culture is tied to the Bible and the Quran, as everyone knows, and Black people for the past 6,000 years has lived this culture. Hundreds of millions of Black people see the Bible and the Quranic religions as their only way of life, and they refuse to listen to anyone teaching a culture that is contrary to these religions. So Dr. York used these religious doctrines to educate his students about the origins of these religions, which would raise the consciousness of his students, who now know better and choose to identify with our original culture called Nuwapu, also known as Wusabat. The problem with religious teachings is that it teaches people to make decisions based on beliefs and not facts, which makes it very hard to educate a people who has been trained to think like this to leave this kind of culture. As we know, people fight and die for their religious beliefs, which is a sign of an irrational mindset. These facts should explain why it took Dr. York over 20 years to raise his students' consciousness away from these religious belief systems. So yes, it is a fact that Black people are related to the so-called Hebrews, but it is also a fact that this Hebrew or Chaldean culture was brought to this planet by a race of ETs known as the Anunnaki. This Hebrew culture is really a slave culture that is completely opposite to our original culture called Wusabat. This Hebrew culture is designed to make Black people ignorant of their origins as a race, and this fact makes us ignorant of our purpose. Black people have forgotten their past, and we have forgotten our origins. These Anunnaki are responsible for our memory loss due to the removal of our Baritory gland that was connected to the hippocampus part of our brain. So, guys, we had a memory loss. This is why we don't remember our origins. Something the master teachers talked about for years. We used to remember our origins. Now we're in a state of belief systems. We literally forgot our origins because we had lost this particular gland called the Baritory gland the master has taught us about. In fact, I want to read this update. These updates the master teacher I had talked about some of this what happened with this Anunnaki. Now, this was a particular update the master teacher had wrote. This was a letter he wrote. I'm not sure when he put this out. When did this come out? It doesn't tell me. I'm sorry. I don't know when this particular came out, but this will give you some insight. This is an interesting update from the master teacher. Let's see. But I'll start here. Enki was built a craft by his mother Eve. So Enki is one of the Anunnaki. For those who do not know, these are a race of ET beings who came to this planet. For those who are having a hard time with ETs, I don't know why, since so many of our people believe in the Bible and they believe in the God of the Bible and they believe in these angels of the Bible, they too would be ETs if they're not from Earth and they come to Earth and they interface with humans. So rather than thinking about the God of the Bible, think about the God of the Bible as being an extraterrestrial, because that's exactly what he really is. And so when they talk about the Lord God and God did this and God did that and God spoke to Moses and God spoke to Abraham, these are beings. These are extraterrestrial beings from other star systems. And they were known in ancient Sumeria as the Anunnaki. And this is what we're saying. We're saying this Hebrew culture that you're reading in the Bible was plagiarized from the Sumerian culture. And when you read the Sumerian culture, it's talking about these Anunnaki, for those who do not know this. And so one of the beings called is called Enki. I had his picture. See if I can find the image of Enki. This is the image of Enki right here. This is the image of Jesus, the black one, the real Messiah. The real Jesus, not that fake white Jesus that the Caucasians worship. Okay, but this is the image of Enki. And then Enki has a brother. Where's Enki's brother? Let's see if I can find it. Well, that's Enki again. So this is what Enki looks like. And I want to find his brother. Interesting. Again, that's Enki. Here's his brother Enlil. This is Enki's brother Enlil. So you got Enki here, and you have his brother Enlil here. And they've been at odds with each other. According to the Sumerian story and culture, these two brothers don't like each other. Okay, so you have Enki and you have Enlil. And they're at odds with one another. And they're black. They look black. Some of them look black. Some of them don't look black. The Anunnaki. Because that's a general terminology. Like extraterrestrial is a general terminology. An extraterrestrial could look like anything or anyone. Okay? And so you have different looking Anunnaki. So we don't want to confuse that either. So now he goes on to say that. So this is the letter that the master teacher wrote. There's an update. Pa'ut Kawan Huhi Yasar. I figured that this may assist you all, is our overstanding and research. Now it says Enki was built a craft by his mother Eve, right, to go and visit this planet, water planet Tiamat. So Enki's mother, do we have an image of Enki's mother? Eve? No, I don't see Enki's mother here. Yes, we do. Here she is. So this is Enki's mother, E, and this is Enki's father, Anu. Okay, so that's his mom. Okay, so let's go back to the letter. Where am I at? All right, so now Eve. Let's see. So Enki was built a craft by his mother. So his mother built him some kind of spacecraft to go and visit this water planet Tiamat. So that used to be the ancient name of Earth, for those who do not know. Now, and then Hersag, that's Inky's sister, agreed to this plan and terraforming of this blue planet to be more hospitable for their species. So they talking about was terraforming the Earth in ancient times. Okay. E was of the ancient reptile beings called the Umshangal. So Inky's mother Eve was a reptilian in bloodline. Okay. The winged serpent. Umshangal means winged serpents. She Eve was a mermaid. The Umshangal were known for being very ancient, having lived many lives, giving them much experience. Now, keep in mind, guys, also for those who do not know, the Anunnaki are shapeshifters, so they can actually look like whatever they want. So that's something else about them, for people may not know that. Didn't go on and say, Inky asked the Dingir, righteous ones, for permission to beam a ray of light on Tanin or Tiamat to terraform it, as Ea or Nudumud was floating. Now, that's one of the names of Inky, was Ea, was floating over the dark waters in his special made craft. This is the face of God hovering over the deep in Genesis, guys. So when we read Genesis that God hovered over the face of the waters, it was talking about Inky. That's what the master teacher is saying here. Remember, the Bible was plagiarized from these Sumerian tablets, talking about these Anunnaki. Keep that in mind. This is the original culture. This is what these Chaldeans were worshiping. That became the Bible. That became the Hebrew culture we know today. Okay? So I hope we're following this. Then we're going to say what he didn't realize was that he was being watched by water beings living under the waters looking up at him. This is Tammuz saying in Genesis that he saw the face of God hovering. Okay, so that it's talking about beings were living in the water. Actually, our ancestors used to live in the water because we come from aquatic beings, right? Us as Black Africans, we come from amphibian aquatic beings who was in the waters, our ancestors. That's why in ancient Egypt they call them the Khamunu, or they translate them today. The Egyptologists call them the Ogdogs, and they were synonymous with snakes. The females represented the snakes, which is a reptilian species, and the males represented frogs, which is an amphibian reptilian species. Our ancestors were connected to amphibian-like beings who were water beings. We're connected to water, right? Humans can't live without water. You know, the babies inside the womb of their mother, a water sac, right? So we have an ancient connection to that. So let's see. No, in order to know something on or above the waters, you have to be below the waters looking up. This was Tammuz or Damuzi. Says it was he and 46 other Anunnaki that distorted the Torah. Okay, so these beings are one who helped put this Bible together as we know it, the Torah. Now, Ea, Nudimud, Enki, and his son Marduk also came into Ptah Me'e Hore'e, called Egypt, to help us and protect it, Africa, us from Nunamnir, Enlil, and Nanar, and Ninurta. So now, remember, Enki was battling his brother. And so the master said Enki and his sons, Marduk, Enki's son had a son named Marduk, and they had a son named Nabu, and they went into Africa as a protection for us Africans against Enki's brother Enlil. Okay, so now that's important, because Enlil was a problem for us, a huge problem. He goes on to say Ea, which is Enki, was the father of Nengis Zither. Nengis Zither is also known as the Hutri or Tahuti to a lot of people. And this was one of the sons of Enki who was helping us. Enki gave him, Ningazita, thousands of me stones. The master said these me stones are storage device. They're like CDs. They're like a disc, a sophisticated CD today. You know, some kind of recording device. They call them me stones that they use. Says once on Kawak Taha, the planet Earth, he is now called Enki. N means master, Ki means earth, the master of earth. So that's what the name means. This Enki used one of the Me's, the red ruby stone of love and lust, to instruct Titi, Ava, or Hawa, the art of sexual reproduction. This is Eve of the Bible, who's being introduced into sex by way of Enki, by way of this computer disc, this, you know, like a pornography tape, I guess the master said. Okay. Before this, they Cadman and Titi couldn't reproduce, not having the proper organs. They were nutrigender. This is the Adam and Eve story. They couldn't reproduce before this. Once Ava or Eve was given the Mafkuzat or me stone, she was now a Nathartat. This it elevated her. What Enki did to her elevated her, turned her into a goddess, basically. She then gave it to Cadman, who was Adam, to make him a Nathar, right? A male Nathar. So he now becomes a god being. So Genesis, now they are like us. So when you went in Genesis to talk about and Adam and Eve become like us, that's what that story was talking about. How Adam and Eve was upgraded by Enki into becoming deities. Now they're like us, the Natharu, knowing good from bad. This angered Nunamnir, Enlil, the flesh-eating Anunnaki. So Enlil was a flesh eater. Not a friend of ours, the master's saying. Because these two new fashioned beings were blocked from their Anunnaki negative telepathic powers. So now the Enlil couldn't negatively control them because Enki was protecting them. They were vibrating and speaking on their own tones now. These newly grafted beings, Titi and Cadman, were protected by Enki and Marduk in a biosphere or a recreational park called Eden or Gan. This is the whole Garden of Eden. They were being protected in this environment from Enlil, his brother who wanted to control humans. It says they were protected from the flesh-eating Enlilites and the Kamau, the Pleiadians. So Enlil was working with the Pleiadians. These are the Nordic gods and goddesses of the Caucasians. That they were in the outer field or of Chaldea of Ur and Sumeria. Remember, I said that Hebrew just means Chaldeans. This is where Hebrew, the concept of Hebrew comes from. This is where this culture comes from, family. So whenever someone calls themselves a Hebrew, they're connecting to this Sumerian culture, this Chaldean culture, this Anunnaki culture. That's not our original culture, is my point. Remember, Adam and Titi, Eve, Cain were tribes. Well, and not remember, a lot of people don't know that. So when they talk about Adam in the Bible, they talk about tribes of people. Eve in the Bible, they talk about tribes of people. A lot of people don't know that. Although, if you read the Bible, it kind of says it in Genesis chapter 5. It does say that. It's just that a lot of people don't read it. A lot of people don't know that. If we go here, where are we at? Let me see something. Just so you guys can know that, because a lot of people don't know that. Genesis chapter 5 says here, just as Genesis chapter 5 verse 1. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day the Lord God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. Male and female created he them, and blessed them, and called their name Adam, in the day when the Lord God created. So this is referring to a body of Adamites. Not and it gives the impression, some people, can give an impression it's one individuals or whatever. It's not. In fact, I guess Genesis chapter 1 gets into it a little bit too when you go into verse what's that, 26. And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the... So this is a tribe of Adamites that these Anunnaki were creating. Okay? Not 1-2 individuals. That 1-2 individual thing, that picks up, that's in Genesis, because we're in Genesis chapter 1. You have to go into Genesis chapter 2, where it picks up into that those individuals. And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Although he's still speaking in a plural term, be honest with you. That's why this stuff could get confusing, especially if you don't have the original tablets where these stories are coming from. So let's go back. Where we at? Let's see. All right, so now over in Egypt, Enki would be Ptah, and Ninti would be Sakhemtat. These are equivalents to the Nathar. Enki, they have counterparts. Like our ancestor of the Nathar is Ptah, and Enki would be a counterpart to his. Okay. Ninti is the wife, I think. Yeah, Ninti is the wife of Enki. And it says, and the being that was helping them in the garden as well was as the son of Enki would be the Hatwi or the Huti. So the Huti was helping Enki with these Adamite creation. The two new beings in the garden, Gan, would be Gabab and Nut. The flesh-eating Anunnaki outside of the garden would be Bes or Enlil. And the Hatwi is the one that has the Mafkuzat in him. It is this liquid gold that will make all the corrections on or in you. In the holy tablets, this liquid gold would be the Akasha tablets, or the tablets of destiny kept in Im, or called Ilion. In the Torah, this would be the sacred tree in the garden that they, Cadman and Titi, were told not to partake of, also called the sardis stone. It was called the tree in the Bible due to the fact that it was written in a special language called the alphabet, the tree alphabet. The letters of this alphabet resembled trees and branches. Guys, there was a book the master teacher put out called Is Jesus God? It was the updated version of it. Came out back in like 2005. The newer version, Is Jesus God? And he has this tree script. I'm sorry, I don't have an image because I would show it to you guys, but it's in that particular book. It's called Is Jesus God? This tree script. That's what they were. They was giving us right knowledge that turned them into gods and goddesses. That transformed them. They was able to possess their etheric bodies. They became in tune with their etheric bodies. Oh, okay, that's right. My bad. Correction. What did I say? I said Ninti was the wife. Okay, yeah, you're correct. Ninki, you're correct. Ninti was his sister. Ninhursag, I believe, of Inky, who helped him with the experiment. Correct. That's what's up. Thanks for the oversight. That's what's up. All right, so now where we at? Let's go back. So now, guys, the problem is we lost our memory, right? Because of the Baritory gland, we had for those who do not know, we had a special gland. We had a gland where we was able our memories. I've talked about this before. Memories, guys. I can't play this, but there's a clip, right? This right here. This is a clip, and this is talking about this woman right here. She was on ABC News. Never forget nothing. She has a perfect memory of everything. Never forgets anything, ever. More than likely, she probably has a Baritory gland. It's one of the abilities you have with your Baritory gland. Your memories, your memories will remain intact. This woman remembers everything. They won't let me play clips on YouTube no more. They stopped me. I would love to play this. Yeah, I don't think I can hear this. Yes, the Mukasu had a Baritory gland. A lot of people don't know that. Yes, the Mukasu had a Baritory gland. Let's see. Where we at? This is the sorry, page 41. This is the actual facts number 46, goes into this topic. So, actual facts number 46, intelligent design, divine design, or plot of aliens. And this is where the master teacher talks about the Baritory gland. And he goes into this topic in detail. And let's see. So where we at? We're gonna start page 41. Let's see. I'm gonna start at page 40, and I'm gonna read from there, family, in this book, and we're gonna get into this topic about our memory. This is why we don't remember anything, guys. We're supposed to be able to remember our past. We don't anymore. It says here, you have to learn to alter your genes at will and transform your inner and outer being. We have that power to do it Epigenetics, family, you have the power to fix your genetics by doing the rituals. If you can learn to master it, you must learn that the state you're in now, you're unworthy to live on the planet Morzak risk with Pa Morzakul. You must first elevate to a higher level of Tazuz vibration to be able to move through different density levels. In that state, your molecules can be sped up and you can transform into a mikbab, a craft, an energy being. In order to be able to go where the master's talking about, you have to transform yourself, family, by doing the rituals. I talk about this all the time. Let's keep going. Nuwapians, I spoke of this many years ago, yet those around me at the time were blinded by religious beliefs as Nubian Islamic Hebrews and Sardo Allah, and not ready for this level of right knowledge. Remember, I said that we were Nubian Islamic Hebrews, but that was that Anunnaki doctrine that our people by the millions today are still under this Hebrew doctrine that connects us to the Anunnaki. That's not who we are. That's what we become, but that's not who we are. We're the children of the Nathar, not of the Anunnaki. We're the Patahites. We're connected to the little ones. That's our original culture. Not that Sumerian culture, that Anunnaki culture that we picked up on, that became known as the Hebrew culture. But this was Chaldean culture, Sumerian culture. They're calling it Hebrew culture today. Let's keep going. So our people wasn't ready. The master was trying to teach us this spiritual knowledge way back in the 70s. And like he said, we weren't ready for it. We couldn't comprehend the spiritual science he was teaching back then. He was saying. So he says this: density levels are the different dimensions that beings vibrate on. There are 9 different density levels altogether. That's the smack circle, guys. I tell you about all the time. So if we go back to the smack circle, those are the 9 different density levels that you have to learn how to connect to into those higher abodes. And we're on the 3rd density. This is where we are. We're down here all the way on the 3rd density. You have to learn how to vibrate on a 4, 5th, all the way up to 9. That's by mastering the rituals. For those who are dedicated enough to do it. Let's keep going. Your physical body can be turned into a kebab, a ship or craft of energy and illuminating light by utilizing the 7 to 9 seats or called the chakras of the body, glands. The one most needed for this is your Baritory gland, family. At each of these seats is a ghadat, a gland. As I have taught before, you must learn how to vibrate on a set tone, the kharas, the seat. When you learn to do this, all these seats or ghadat at glands line up and illuminate and vibrate, giving you the ability to turn into energy. Your glands sit in the kharasat, the seats. This is in your body, near your spinal column, family. These seats are your secondary set of senses that help you stay in tune with the achak tapal, the etheric world, the soul world, and the spiritual world all at once. You still have them, yet they are latent in you. It is very easy to ascend to the spiritual realm during Nawam, sleep, because this is the time the Ka'al Khatat, the spiritual body, is active, and the Khatat al Khatat, the physical body, is inactive. That's why it's easy to go out of body when you're asleep. Something you should learn to practice. Learn how to, when your body's going into a sleep state, you can train yourself to go out of body so that your body drops into a sleep state and then you'll raise out. He goes on to say, once you regain the right knowledge on how to use your higher senses. 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, and 9 from your lower senses. See, hear, taste, smell, and touch. You will be able to raise your tazuzat, your vibrations of your physical, you to the spiritual level, going higher and higher until they can pass through the etheric being freely, taking the physical body, you with it through the wormhole. That is turning you inside out, family. Another path way Nawapians is that just the Ba'a, Wu-Ka'a, the soul and spirit ascend, leaving the Khatat, the body, behind. To understand the first method, imagine you are a pebble dropped into a pond, relating whirlpools on the surface of the Maye water and radiating outward from you in an ever greater circle or whirlwind, hovering above the water. Your two eyes become one, a middle single, patar, divine eye. Your third eye opens. You make a buzzing sound as if they hum. This is why we chant Anun, Atum, Atum, Amun. Your body vibrates when you're doing that chant. We're supposed to do it in a group, though, not as individuals. We're supposed to do it as a group, not as individuals. You tune all illuminations in. You repeat the buzzing sound in your upper nasal scent from your third eye, and you breathe with the sound from into your right nostril, from outside of the body to the third eye, and inside the breath from your left nostril outside all the wall, all the way repeating the humming sound of Anun, Atum, Atun, Amun, until you feel and hear the whole body vibrate. You have these sakhamat powers still when the baritory gland was removed from your hippocampus part of the brain, yet small parts were left in order not to damage the surrounding ghadat gland. So you still have flashes of things, see things, hear things, and feel your higher senses. Your higher senses are telepathy, clairvoyance, intuition, and psychometry. You lost these when some of the Anunnaki great scientists, namely Nagal, Ninti, daughter of Anu, Arishkigal, wife of Nagal, opened a part of your ancestors' brain and removed a gland known as the baritory gland, which was not originally called the baritory gland. So they didn't even call it that. Interesting enough. Then he says it was called that because the Hebrew Chaldean word taken from the Sumerian word bada, which means beginning of a thing, or to bring about, to at new, to remake or make, right? Hear that Hebrew Chaldean thing, guys? You hear that? This is their culture, the Chaldean culture. Remember that. These are Anunnakis, and they're the ones that took our ancestors' baritory gland from them. It was removed from the hippocampus area, which is located in the cerebrum region of the brain. Okay, so this is a diagram. He's talking about it here. Then he says this: the baritory gland work with the appendix and the tonsils. The removal of the baritory gland cut off your four higher senses: telepathy, clairvoyance, intuition, and psychometry, which affects your five lower senses, which is Ramui, seeing, Shamu, hearing, Shamui, taste, and Shaor, feeling. And they all affected by your DNA, your genes. The hippocampus part of the brain, whose purpose is well known to modern science, is the tissue which held the baritory gland when inside the brain of the Adamites, was also removed. So you see this? The hippocampus part of the brain, whose purpose is well known to modern science is the tissue which held the baritory gland when inside the brain of the Adamu, or the Adamites, was also removed. So ours was removed and the Adamites was removed. This is what he was saying. Not just us. So I hope that makes sense right here. The Adamites was also removed. Okay. So now, where we at? But with the removal, here's a point. With the removal of the gland, it cuts your memory. That's the problem. It cuts your memory. With the removal of the gland, it cuts your memory. That's what the problem is. And let me clear this up. Remember, the Adamites are just albino Hindus. Let's not forget that. They're albino Hindus. So that they're connected to the Hindus, which is what these Chaldeans were anyway, Hindu peoples. So that gets into a whole nother discussion. But let's see where we at. This is Right Knowledge Scroll. Right Knowledge Scroll talks about the spell that we're under. What is the spell? Question. What is the spell of sleep that was cast upon blacks, Nubians, Pathites, Cushites, Egyptian Moors, the children of the Elohim, or the Anunnaki, or the Nadarat, the Natharu? Answer. It is called an evil hypnotic spell of amnesia, family, called the spell of sleep, or Imam, or Leviathan. We forgot our past, guys. Wusabat family that was cast upon all blacks, Nubians, Pathites, Ethiopian Cushites, and the original Egyptian Moors, the woolly hair people, 6,000 years ago at the beginning of the first moon cycle of 6,000 years with the creation of white magic. White magic is 6 ether spirit forces, ghosts, white, vapor, or gas. The spiritual part of it is called Seh, religion. It is a spell of spiritual ignorance and worship of white ghost spirits called God. It is a spell of spiritual ignorance and racial blindness. For 6,000 years, our people have been in a coma state, amnesia, a sleep of the conscious mind, lost in blind faith and beliefs with no facts and confirmations, outright ignorance to who they are. The powers of this spell are enforced by fake religious books and white supremacy propaganda that is put out by religions such as Mosesism, Jesusism, or Judaism, Christianism, Christianity, and Mohammedanism, which is Islam. The original religious books that were in their original tongue and form were destroyed. The Hebrew Torah, Bible, and Arabic Quran of today have been altered by disagreeable forces and have you living off a blind faith. They have mistakes in them, and just because these scriptures are written in Hebrew or Arabic doesn't make them right. And how can Allah or God make mistakes? Our people are under a hypnotic spell, and what created that spell was the removal of our baritory gland of our ancestors. It cut us off. It basically incapacitated us. That's why we don't remember anything. But here's the key, guys. You can restore your baritory gland through the spiritual rituals. You can restore your baritory gland through the spiritual rituals. This is what that whole actual facts I was reading is what the master teacher is explaining. Through the rituals, you can fix yourself. Not to mention, you have the spiritual counterpart to your baritory gland. You have a spiritual counterpart to your baritory gland. You just lost a physical counterpart to it. This is why a lot of people still have psychic powers, because they would tap into the spiritual counterpart of the baritory gland. That's very important to know that. Okay, so where are we? Let's see. Question. Why would these ETs called the Anunnaki want us to forget our past? Answer. Control, control, control. That's the number one word, control, family. It is easy to control a people if you have superior knowledge than they do. By taking our memories, made it easy for these Anunnaki to introduce us into these religious cultures that are designed to enslave our minds by us worshiping unseen spirit forces we call God, hoping this God would solve all our problems when we are the only ones who can solve our own problems. And that's what they did to us by incapacitating us and taking our memories away. It's easy to introduce us into these crazy cultures we're living today, called the Hebrew culture. Every day, Black people are praying to this spirit force called God, hoping that this God will solve their problems, not realizing that they have the power to solve their own problems. Religion is designed to teach people not to use their own spiritual powers, but to rely on the unseen God to use his spirit powers to solve your problems. These kinds of teachings make people vulnerable to ETs like the Anunnaki, who have spiritual powers that they use against humanity. If Black people knew of their own spiritual powers, then ETs such as the Anunnaki would not be able to manipulate us as they are doing now. So you refer to Genesis chapter 3, speaks on this. All ruling power starts with a spiritual science. When a people do not have a spiritual science, then they become open prey of anyone who does, which is why Black people are being ruled by every race on this planet who has their own spiritual science. For those who don't know the importance of a spiritual science must realize that spirit science is what teaches you all the rules and laws of natural nature, which is why ETs are so much more advanced than humans because of their knowledge of the forces of nature. ETs, like the Anunnaki, use this superior knowledge to rule planets like ours so that they can control the resources of this planet, and we are powerless to stop them because of our spiritual ignorance. What is interesting about religion is that it talks about the spiritual powers of humans, but never explain to humans how they can develop these abilities on their own to solve their problems. The Bible likes to talk about how this unseen God used his spiritual powers to help people like Abraham against the Pharaoh of Egypt, right? So remember the God of the Bible put all these plagues on Egypt? See, the God of the Bible using spiritual powers. And the God of the Bible didn't tell Abraham, no, actually the God of the Bible, not that was with Moses. The God of the Bible used his spiritual powers because Abraham goes to Egypt. His wife Sarah is taken by the Pharaoh, and then the God of the Bible goes into a dream and telling the Pharaoh, give Abraham his wife back. Dream walking. Why didn't the God of the Bible tell Abraham he could do the same thing? That's the trick. Question: who would Enki be as an Egyptian deity? Enki's equivalent to in ancient Kemet would be Ptah. I read that earlier. So where am I? So now it says what else? God used his powers to help Moses in Egypt. So right, so God used his spiritual powers, right? During, did all that stuff in Egypt, parting the Red Sea, killing the firstborn, sending a plague of blood in the water, locusts to the Egyptians, all kinds of stuff. This God of the Bible had knowledge of nature. When your ancestors were in tune with nature, they could do the same thing. Your ancestors knew how to make it rain. We forgot our own spiritual powers. That's why they wanted to remove our baritory gland, made it easy to rule us and trick us. You see religious people trying to develop themselves spiritually? No, they're not trying to do it at all. God gave Jesus his powers to show the people the power of God working through Jesus. See the trick? Now, the Bible has no problem showing people the power of this unseen God, but never explains that people have these same powers of God. Refer to the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 22 talks about it, guys. So if we go back here, right here, the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 22, it says, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thy eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. That's talking about opening up your third eye, but it doesn't explain how to do it. Don't teach people in religion how to open their third eye, but it's talking about it right here in the Bible. And if you go back, I read this earlier. If you go to, what's that? What was that? Revelations, Revelations chapter 1, verse 10. This is John speaking, the apostle John of Jesus. He said, I was in the spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet. He went out of body. Why they don't teach you how to go out of body in these religions? They talking about it, but they don't teach nobody how to do it. That's the problem. They mention these spiritual things, but they don't tell nobody how to develop these things. That's the trick. You must develop yourself, family, or you'll continue to be controlled by these beings. All these quotes speak of the power of humans, but never explain how humans can develop their own spiritual power without the need of worshiping the unseen God of the Bible or Quran or any other religious belief system. The unspoken secret of religion is that the same powers that people subscribe to their unseen gods, humans possess these same abilities, which is why when Moses challenged the Pharaoh of Egypt, the Egyptian priests knew of the same spiritual powers of the Bible God, right? The whole turning the staff into snakes. The Egyptian priests were able to do the same exact thing. So obviously our ancestors had spiritual science. They knew they had spiritual knowledge. How you think we built them darn pyramids? My point is that anyone who has a knowledge of spiritual science knows that all so-called spiritual powers comes from one's knowledge of nature, and any unseen God claiming to be powerful is getting these powers from their knowledge of nature, no different than any scientists of today who are doing and creating things like the cell phone, the TV, the computer, airplanes, etc. All things that would be considered magic 500 years ago. You see that? That's all it is. These so-called ETs have an advantage of knowledge. So when you handicap a people, make them forget who they are, then anyone can manipulate you. And that's what they did. And that's what they're doing. Let's see. Question: who would be considered Enlil and Enki to be today? Well, these are actual beings the master speaks of. They're around. They're still living. You know, I mean, these are titles. That's not their actual names. These are titles that that comes out of the Sumerian tablets. But these are actual characters or actual beings who are connected to this race that's being called the Anunnaki. They're real beings. They're still around. Question: what part of the species was Zuin from? Also, is Zuin and Enlil working together? Also, I don't recall Zuin put a spell on Enlil and Inky people. Can you go into a bit of that Towel Act? Yeah, okay. So Zuin is none other than Enlil's son. Zuin is none other than Enlil's son. His name is Nanar. That's his real name. Nanar is Zuin. They're one and the same. And Nanar is one of the sons of Enlil. Nanar is a demon. He's a demon. The master explained to us. He's one causing all these problems on this planet for us. Nanar sin. Question. Should we call ourselves Hebrews now that we know that the unseen God has no power over us? Answer. People only know the word Hebrew in this day and time from the teachings of the Bible. If there was no Bible, who would be called Hebrew? When we look at the people who claim to be connected to the Hebrew culture spoken about in the Bible, they don't call themselves Hebrew. They say they are Falasha or Limba or Igbo or Dangala or Ansars. These are names of African tribes who all claim to have a connection to the so-called Hebrew culture, but do not call themselves Hebrew. When we research the historical records, we don't find people calling themselves Hebrews. We do find other names like the Habaru in ancient Egypt, or the Hika Hasut, or the Phoenicians, or the Chaldeans, or the Canaanites, or the Sumerians, or the Elamites, or the Assyrians, to name a few. These are names of tribes of people who all lived in the so-called Middle East, or some say Western Asia in those times. My point is that the name Hebrew would only be relevant if the Bible was authentic. The Bible is a book whose history is only 6,000 years old, which should make clear to thinking people that this book has nothing to do with black people, since we are millions of years old. In fact, the only people that this book's timeline would match is the white race and not the African race. White people only been on Earth for 6,000 years as opposed to the woolly haired African people, guys. So when you look that up, the origin of the white race, they tell you their origin. Here's an article about it. I'm gonna find it for y'all. Right here, this is in a science journal, right here on the internet. How Europeans evolved white skin. How did they get white skin? They tell you about it in this article. And they tell you when they got it. It says here, but in the far north, where low light levels would favor pale skin, the team found different pictures in hunter-gatherers. Some 7 people from 7,700-year-old Motala archaeological site in southern Sweden had both light skin gene variants. They also had a third gene which caused blue eyes and may also contribute to light skin and blonde hair. Thus, ancient hunter-gatherers of the far north were already pale and blue-eyed, but those of Central and Southern Europe had darker skin. So they was telling you in the article that the original Europeans were black from Africa. And then 6,000 years ago, some kind of mutation happened in the genetics and people started turning white. Those are the albino children. Those are the albino children taught us turning white 6,000 years ago. It's right here. Let me go back. I'll ask you a question. The other question. Give me a minute for the question. Hold on. Let me just finish real quick because we have no more time, but I want to finish. So now it goes on to say, the problem is that people who wrote this Bible used the history of black people to record these stories and make them seem factual when they are plagiarized from other cultures. Black people have nothing to do with Bible history, even though black people who lived in these regions at these times are included in these stories. Know that we were added to these stories so that it would be easy to enslave our minds to these stories because we would naturally feel a connection to the Bible stories since we forgot our true history and origins. My point is that it is easy to brainwash a people who forget their own origins. You can tell that person anything because anyone who forgets their own past would be very excited to find their own origins. We see this today with people who have been adopted and get so excited when they find their blood relatives. We also see this in all the DNA tests that black people take to find a connection to an African tribe. Wanting to find one's origin is a very natural and important thing for anyone to seek after. But the question we must ask ourselves, are we wanting to be called Hebrews based on facts because we remember our origins, or based on beliefs because the Bible make references to people that look like us? Y'all see the trick? They purposely put black people in the Bible to make us connected to that silly book. And that's why people are going around calling themselves Hebrew all over the world or saying they're connected to the Bible. That's the trick. I hope you see it. And then they got the nerve to tell you the Bible history is 6,000 years old. Guys, you know good and well we as melanated people been around for millions of years. Don't let them trick you. The 6,000 years silliness. Question. If we are not Hebrews, then how do we factually prove who we are? Answer. DNA is the only way to prove who we are by race and origins. I don't mean taking white people's DNA exams, but unlocking one's own DNA by way of spiritual knowledge and know-how. I spoke once before of this power that we all had but forgot how to use. Refer to that movie, right? I talked about this before. The movie, well, I'm talking about this woman. She remembers, all her past. But she was born like that. But you can develop this. Let's see. This movie here, Underworld. In this movie right here, where the old Dracula drinking your blood, showing that your past is in your DNA. Okay, remember, you're nothing but the genes of your mother and father. Who the genes of their mother and father? Who the genes of their mother and father? It's in your DNA. So in that movie Underworld, guys, if you haven't seen it, I think it's Underworld Part 2, not the first one. The second one, where it shows where that demon vampire was able to taste your blood and he can read your genes. Your memory is encoded in your blood. This movie Assassin's Creed, same thing. The whole movie is about how your genetics, you can trace your bloodline through your genetics. It's in your blood. You have to develop yourself spiritually to do it. Here's another. This is a video from Science article. Intriguing recent research now reveals that ancestral memories may be inherited by offspring. They now know that your genes have memory. Science. For decades, science have debated the existence of the physical storage of memories. They're talking about in your brain and your DNA. They now know it's connected. Your genes have memory. We just forgot how to access the memory, family. You have to remember how to access it. That's current science. They know this now. We used to know this. And that's what I was saying. The master put out this book, right? Where we at? This book right here. This whole book is explaining how to restore your memory. He explains how you lost your memory and how to fix it. This book right here, Actual Facts number 46. Y'all need to study this. You need to memorize this whole book. Where am I at? Let's see. All right. So now, well, okay. So now, so that movie, those movies refer to that. Now we have dormant powers that the culture Wusabat teaches us how to use. Know that DNA is a recorder of all, and that our DNA is no more than a copy of our parents' DNA, which is no more than a copy of their parents' DNA, all the way back to our origins. So yes, it is an actual fact that one has the power to remember their own origins if they learn to turn themselves inside out and outside in. These teachings are the core purpose of why the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z.K. incarnated to teach. Our culture, Wusabat, is based on knowledge of origins. The first step to unlocking one's DNA code is for you to overcome your negative desires that is keeping your body in a lower vibrational frequency. If your body is not vibrating at its natural nature frequency, it would be impossible to unlock your DNA memory code. My point is, why base your life on beliefs you can't prove when you can live to prove what is factual, such as unlocking your own DNA code? Question: if Wusabat is our original culture, then what proof is there of this? Answer: the proof is in what I just explained about unlocking one's own DNA code, which would give you all the proof you need to remember your own origins. The proof is in the teachings of Dr. Malachi Z.K. York, who has been teaching us facts about our origins for the past 60 years. We can teach you all you need to know about driving a car, but you will never know how it feels until you actually start driving a car. If you choose not to conquer your own lower desires, or you choose not to master the spiritual rituals that we teach, or you choose not to embrace the power of a shack, then all that we teach would have very little meaning. Wusabat is a genetic doctrine that is a calling to the chosen, those who feel compelled to master the teachings of Wusabat. If you do not have a burning desire for the truth or living facts, then it would be impossible to experience the power of Wusabat. Every class, we explain the core principles of Wusabat that all students are to master and live by. But if you choose to ignore these teachings, then all that we say would have no real meaning. But for the many call who choose to master the teachings of Wusabat, one is guaranteed to achieve every goal that is taught that one could experience. So, I hope that makes sense for all. That was a lot. Oh, okay. Nibarian. Let's see. In Lil. No, I don't think Enlil are the Pleiadians. Although Enlil work with the Pleiadians. I just read that. And that was in a particular update that I was reading earlier. I don't know if you was here earlier where we talked about that. This is an update that I was reading. Let's see. The flesh-eating Anunnaki outside of the garden would be Enlil, right? So it talks about Enlil here. Where does it say? Enlil. Ptah. Adam. Okay, so it says right here. Says they were protected from the flesh-eating Enlilites and Hama'ud, Pleiadians. So Enlil was working with the Pleiadians. It's not that he was a Pleiadian. So that I think that's important. They were in the outer field, Chaldea, or in Samaria. But that is an interesting thought that Enlil could be considered the Pleiadians, but I haven't seen that in our doctrine written like that. But it says here Enlilites and the Kamau Pleiadians, because remember the children of Enlil are those 200 demons that came to the planet that raped the Adamite females. Okay. These 200 demons were black that came down. They weren't Caucasian. They weren't Nordics. So that's important to know. Let's see. The right environment in the right season along with the right knowledge, NoopooH, produce the right conditions to grow. That's what's up, knowledge seeker. And let's see. Meet Diumbri. How can you find out who you descend from or ancestors are? That's what I was reading about, learning to unlock one's DNA. That's the best way to do it, honestly, that I recommend. You know, but one has to develop themselves spiritually. If you really want to know your past, this is the whole point of our teachers of Wusabat. I highly recommend everyone to get that book. I quoted from. I talk about it a lot. It's one of the most important books we have out. This right here, Actual Facts, number 46. Intelligent Design, Divine Design, or Plot of Aliens. This book is extremely powerful. Very important. You guys get it, study it, learn it inside out, master what it's saying. Question: how come we don't recognize the cherubim from the seraphim, right? So when we say cherubim, we're talking about the negative spirit forces versus the seraphim, we refer to the positive spirit forces. The negative represents those who do things that are adverse to nature. Positive would be those who do things in harmony with natural nature. So you know negative when those who live adverse to nature. In fact, the whole Caucasian society is based on being adverse to natural nature. So you know what kind of spirits rule them, and everyone who followed their lifestyle, the Western world, are ruled by negative demonic spirits because they're not trying to be in harmony with nature. That's why humans are what? Destroying the earth, depleting the resources of the earth. Don't care nothing about the earth. They don't care nothing about each other. They don't care nothing about the planet. That lets you know that this planet is ruled by demons. Plain and simple. Spirit demons. In our original culture as Pataj, we live in harmony with nature. We want to go around destroying the planet, polluting the water, polluting the earth, polluting the air. What kind of person pollutes their own house? That lets you know humans are sick. All right, but it is that time. I highly recommend, guys, spread the word, guys. Support the channel. Become members of NoopooCC.com. Support. We're going to be on Clubhouse tomorrow. For those who know about Clubhouse, we're going to be talking on Clubhouse. And, we're going to keep it going. Spread the word. Each one teach one. Guys, make it a goal to recruit one person and teach that person to recruit one person. That's how we grow. That's how we change the planet. If y'all really want to change the planet, get in the game. Make a commitment to recruit one person into Wusabat. Each one teach one, and teach that person you recruit to recruit one person, and you help them do it. That's how we grow. That's how we change the vibration on the planet. The more our people accept these actual facts of right knowledge. Look how many of our people don't know what we just talked about what it means to be a Hebrew, and how it connects you to this demonic culture, this Chaldean bloodlusting culture. With that being said, spread the word. Musa. And I will bow out, and I'll be back also next week with more.